schizophrenia. Well, let me take water as a clear case. If you get a generalization about water, like all the samples of water you've encountered boil, or whatever it is, 212 degrees Fahrenheit. If all the samples you've encountered so far boil at that temperature, then you can generalize and say all water will boil at that temperature. You can't do that with mud. If all the mud you've encountered so far didn't happen to boil at a particular temperature, that might just be an accident. Mud is really a kind of heterogeneous classification for all different kinds of stuff that behave in the same kind of way. Part of the point of trying to classify psychiatric disorders is that if you can get them organized as natural kinds, which is what people are trying to do basically, if you're trying to get them organized, not just so that they're classifications, not just of the way things strike us, but of the distinctions between patients that are out there in the world, then you should be able to do inductions and say, this treatment worked on this patient, this treatment worked on this collection of patients, therefore very likely this treatment will work on them all. You want to be able to generalize from what goes on with a small sample to what's going to go on with all, or at any rate, the good majority of patients. And if you know something about how the disorder came about in a particular bunch of patients, you should be able to generalize and say, well, very likely, this is how it comes about for all or most patients. So one way to think of the importance of the classification is in terms of whether induction is possible, whether you can generalize from a small sample to the behavior of the whole. Okay. So this is an important distinction, it seems to me, but there's a lot of unclarity in how you apply it in particular cases. That's kind of my picture of what is going on when we talk about natural kinds. When Putnam was writing, of course, the subject was relatively new in recent philosophy, and I think it's fair to say, he takes it that chemistry is actually the general case, that you get nice tidy essences for everything. Okay. Comfortable with that? You don't have to agree, but you see what the idea is. Okay. So I just want finally to say something about another way of reading Putnam than the way of reading I gave last time. I mean, the way of reading I gave last time is there in the text, and there's quotes from the text, but there is another way of reading him. There is also in the text, I think. So we've got these natural kinds. There are classifications out there in the world independently of us. The substances, the species, all those things are out there, whatever we think of them. So you could think on this way, on the way of reading Putnam that I'm going to suggest now, which is much more like Kripke's view. You might say, well, names for substances are logically proper names. A logically proper name was a name that didn't have any bits and pieces in it. I mean, unlike a description, is not complex. A name is simple. You give meaning to a name just by saying, I shall call this Bill. I shall call this person Sally. You give meaning to the name just by dubbing an object with that name. So similarly, you could think a name for a substance is simple. By gold, what you're doing, when you talk about gold, you're just dubbing a substance, you're just dubbing a kind. When you talk about water, you're just dubbing a kind. So what's going on is that these names for chemical substances, biological species, they're physical phenomena like electricity, mass. What's going on is, out there in the world, there are these phenomena, mass, electricity, tigers, water, and what you do is you say, I'll dub this one water, I'll dub this one electricity, I'll dub this one mass. That thing out there is what you're causally responding to when you use the term. So the terms for natural kinds here are working just the same way Kripke thinks proper names work. Kripke thinks when you get a proper name, you just got someone who's making you use that name. You've got someone who's generating information about themselves, radiating it out into the community, and other people pick up on that and use that name to transmit the information that's being radiated out. So similarly, you could think that a kind is radiating information about itself out to you, and what you do is you respond to that radiation of information by using a name to pick up the information and transmit it to other people. So just as proper names represent in virtue of a causal relation to the subject, words for natural kinds represent in virtue of a causal relation to the subject. Now, this is different to the account I was describing to Putnam last time. The account I was giving to Putnam last time was that a name like water is actually a description, meaning the stuff that bears same L to the liquid around here that falls from the valleys, fills the rivers, lakes, and so on. So that last week I was giving a reading of Putnam on which is really, water is really a description, it's short for a description. The liquid bears same L to the stuff which falls from the rivers, lakes, and so on. So that's a descriptive way of specifying the reference. This is much simpler. This is just saying, you encounter the stuff, you get into some rain, you say, I'll call that water. There isn't an explicit breakdown of it into anything complex. So you could say, I encounter these superficial symptoms of the underlying structure. My encountering those superficial symptoms, like it gets you wet, it quenches thirst, and so on, that is me being causally affected by the underlying structure. And so I exploit that when I use the name water. Someone in Twin Earth is exploiting, it's the same symptoms, but they're being caused to use the term by a different underlying structure. That's why the term refers to something different. So this really fits right in with the kind of progression from Frege to Kripke. Where you start out thinking, well, a sign's got a sense and a reference, and the sense is going to be expressed by a description. Then you move with Russell to saying, well, there's going to be a class of names that are more primitive than descriptions. And then you move with Kripke to saying, well, maybe ordinary names are primitive names, they're rigid, and a reference is fixed by a causal chain. So you could think that terms like water, tiger, schizophrenia, maybe, they're like that too. They're more primitive than any description, and they're rigid, and their references are all fixed by causal chains. The names for natural kinds are going to be logically proper names on this picture. And the striking thing here is that once you have this conception of what's going on with these names for natural kinds, you're going to have problems with informativeness and signs that are meaning that don't refer. Because if what you've got is, if you've got to have the same causal chain in order to have the same sign, well, how can you know about that? Except by knowing something, an empirical fact about the world that you have to learn. How can you know that a priori, that the same causal chain lies behind your two uses of a term? And these points imply difficulties about your knowledge of your own mental states. The kind of difficulties that I began with for, what was his name? Descartes. I mean, it's actually anticipated. You remember we had that affecting story of Spot? Spot, The old Spot, yes. Yeah, I mean, you remember the innocent family that was spared all this heartbreak and anguish by deception, right? One Spot was substituted for another. Okay, if you're in that situation, if you're thinking, here I am thinking about Spot again, dear old Spot, I was thinking about Spot only yesterday. Well, in that case, which thing you're thinking about may have shifted, though you didn't realize it. Yeah, I mean, that was the moral of the story. Now, which thing you're thinking about when you're thinking about Spot has shifted, though you didn't realize it, then you can't know whether you're having the same thought again just by doing the Rodin thing, just by thinking about, just by reflection, surveying what's going on in your own mind. Because whether you're having the same thought again is not completely a matter of what's going on in your own mind. It depends on what's out there in the physical world. Isaac Bashevis Singer had a story, I'm actually relying on memory for this, but it's something like this, about a man who sets out on a long journey from his village, and it's going to take him weeks to get to his destination, and every night, outside his tent, he leaves his clogs pointing in the direction in which he's going. And after he's been on the road for some considerable time, one night, someone turns his clogs around. And so he continues walking, and after many more weeks, he comes to a village and realizes that the world is even stranger than he thought it was. He says, good God, this looks just like my own village. These horses look just like the horses from my own village. This woman looks just like my wife. It's unbelievable. So there, now suppose you ask him, are these really horses? He's perfectly within his rights to say, well, they might be, and they might not be. He's thinking about the very same things in the very same way, but he doesn't realize that he is. For all he knows, they might be different. He can't tell, just by reflecting on the contents of his own mind, that he is thinking about the very same objects in the very same way. When he's asked, is that woman the same woman that you've thought about so often? He thinks no. And he can't tell that it is, just by reflecting on the contents of his own mind. In his context, he's actually perfectly reasonable for him to raise the question. Isn't that a different person? Am I thinking about someone different here? So he's being presented with the very same people and things and substances in the very same ways. He's thinking the very same thoughts, but he doesn't realize that he is. He doesn't have authoritative knowledge over the contents of his own mind. So in these Earth and twin Earth cases, okay, this was Putnam's description, and I said, well, if you were being swapped back and forth between Earth and twin Earth, then you wouldn't even realize what was happening, because it's so similar to this one. But then, if that was going on, you'd think you were having the same thoughts, but you wouldn't be. Yeah? And on the other hand, it could happen to you that, I mean, some year we may do this as a class exercise. We take some individual and we say, there really is a twin Earth, and we're actually going to fire you off there to see if what Putnam says is true. Kindly step into this box. And if you do this carefully enough, with enough stage setting, yeah, we might put you into the box, and then 3 minutes later, out you come, into the same old classroom, and say, by God, it's true. It's just exactly like the classroom I just left. Everything looks just the same. But of course you say they're not the same people, there's not the same substance water here, so I'm not thinking the same thoughts. But you are thinking the same thoughts. Yeah? So you might look at this scene and that scene. You look out at this scene before you step into the box, you look out at the very same scene after you step out of the box, and you say, God, they look almost exactly identical. But I'm not having the same thoughts, because this, after all, is H2O and this is XYZ, Z. You're wrong about that, yeah, because they're both H2O. But it's not a priori that you're wrong. You can't tell that you're wrong just by doing the Rodin thing, just by doing the Descartes thing. So if you fall asleep by the fire, and then you think, well, maybe it's all a dream, but I can still know which thoughts I'm having, it's not true. And if there's no water out there for you to be causing you to think those thoughts, then you're not actually having any thoughts at all. Okay, more of this on Wednesday, thank you. Yeah.